Welcome, everybody, the internet. It is I, Beyond Sadistic, with the MTGPL Discord, and with me tonight is Prez BOTW and Oliver V, and this is Legacy Live. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing. You got this first, Prez. You're above me. No, you're above me. You go first. That's why we do this.
I am trying my best not to burn to death in this intense heat that we're having going on right now. It is very high. We are now pushing Celsius, that is above freezing temperatures in Fahrenheit. It's very hot. So
See, I'm doing fantastic. It's been raining for days where I am now, so you know what? Things are nice and cool down for me. It's actually kind of suiting that you're the hot one and I get to be the cool one for this. But I am so jazzed. We've been getting ready for this for a couple of days now. I've been getting to mess around with some legacy decks that I don't normally play with, and yeah, it's really enjoyable. I'm excited to get to show everyone what we've been working on today, Prez.
yeah, no, it's going to be good for sure. I'm playing a couple decks as well. Well, one of them is a bit out of my wheelhouse. Another one is something I've been wanting to brew with for a while, which is really cool, and I think it's an interesting way to take the deck. And then round 3 is going to be great.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so jazzed for that one.
Absolutely. So for all of our guests here today, let's talk about the decks that we're going to be playing. This last week has been really, really interesting metagame-wise in Legacy. Modern Horizons 2 being the jackhammer of the format destroyer for across the board. We have brought you guys some different decks for today. Let's start off with the first thing that Prez is going to be playing in round number 1, and that is Green-White Depths. Prez, why don't you tell us about this deck?
So this deck is a new variant, I guess, of the traditional black-green Turbo Depths. In this case right here, it's powered out by Elvish Reclaimer very specifically. However, I personally am a huge fan of this deck by virtue of Swords to Plowshares as an additional removal spell, which the other Turbo Depths variants I felt were a little bit light on, and also Knight of the Reliquary is a good backup beater. I love me a Knight of the Reliquary deck, and so being able to have a powerful finish via Merit Lage in a Knight of the Reliquary shell, I think is super sweet.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. A lot of the Maverick players have actually been sort of like pivoting back and forth between this Green-White Depths, specifically Dukes. This specific deck is something that Dukes had actually played and has done fairly well with. It's like this middle of the ground with a very powerful finisher, and it seems to be doing really well. So I'm really excited to see this one, which brings us to our next one. Oliver is going to be picking up the old with a lot of new Affinity. Oliver, why don't you tell us about the new one?
I'm so jazzed about this deck. When we first had Modern Horizon drop, right, one of the first bit of news that we had was that first challenge was taken down by basically a variation of this list. Since then, it's been kind of hated out of the metagame. Basically, it's one of those things where if you know that you need to get ready for it, you just play Seeds of Innocence or Meltdown or whatever cards you need to and just completely mop the floor with it. But the really cool thing about this deck is that I think that this has potential of being kind of like a Dredges deck in the greater Legacy metagame, where there are going to be these weekends going forward in large events where it's a fantastic deck to play just when people aren't bringing their answers to it, right? So, I mean, Steel Stompy's back, baby. That's kind of the real thing that we're saying. And it's all been powered by Urza's Saga. I've been messing around with this card a decent amount, and oh, this thing's nutty. It's really good. That said, though,
powerful.
The more that I play this deck, the less I'm worried about Urza's Saga and really any of this deck in general in the Legacy metagame. Again, super easy to hate out. And then at the same time, we'll get into this later. This mana base sucks right now. It honestly does. The more that I play with this deck, the more that I really just want to dish the white. But you know what? What is it? Aethersworn Canonist is a really good card, it turns out. That's the best card for the in terms of the white splash here.
Yeah, I would agree with you here. And let's get us over to the Battlefield. Doc, thank you so much for the 6-month resub. We absolutely appreciate it. This, again, guys, this will be our second week doing this Legacy Live. This is the new format. What you've got here is Oliver V down on the bottom. Prez is up at the top. They're going to be playing through their match. They're going to be answering your questions at the MTG Paper Legacy and chat if you have questions for any of these gentlemen. Yeah, and they're going to talk through their opening hands, why they're keeping it, what they're looking for, and go from there. So if you guys have questions, please, by all means. And I'll leave it to you, gentlemen.
Sounds good. Well, as per with all Magic games, let's just get this part out of the way right here. Would you like odds or evens?
I will go odds, baby.
That's a 1. It's one of the only ways to win on a 1.
Dr.
No,
Leo in the chat said, "I'm excited to see the Esper Sentinel in action. That card seems insane." Oliver, how do you feel about that one?
In testing, it actually has been pretty marginal the vast majority of the time. There are these games where you end up stacking a ton of counters on it and make it a lot more taxing. Your opponent can just kind of play around it. It's actually going to be. I will do your middle one. Which one do you want from me? 1, 2, or
Middle
3?
as well.
Middle sounds good. And I will take this play. The
Yep.
biggest thing is it's really matchup dependent. This is actually going to be one where it's quite hard. Namely because we're going up against depths where it's green-white. It's a Maverick deck, essentially, right? Where it's incredibly creature-based. But honestly, it's one of those cards that I would not mind cutting just for a more stable mana base. But let's see. So for me in my opener, what I'm really looking for, knowing what this matchup is, I want to be essentially either getting Ancient Tomb and Urza Saga just to do that really aggressive start. That going Urza's turn 1, turn 2, start making the constructs, or I really want to be getting a Psy active and getting it active early so I don't have to worry about a Dark Depths. This is super easy pitch back, right? Only land is Seed of the Synod. We do have Thoughtcast, Retrofitter Foundry, Ballista, Thought Monitor, but we're just looking for a better hand than this. I'm going to go ahead and ship it back.
Yeah. So again, this is a deck I'm not super familiar with. I think I'm actually probably going to keep this opening hand in the blind. It doesn't have too much action, but I like kind of the way that it is potentially going to feel out. In this particular matchup, I think what I want to be doing is I just want to kill via Merit Lage as fast as possible. So this hand has 5 lands, of which one of them is the Thespian Stage. The Caracas is probably not super relevant here. The Sajiri's Step, there is a second copy in the deck, so I can still go find one if need be. And then it also has an Elvish Reclaimer and a Knight of the Reliquary, so I can get started ramping right away. So I actually think I'm going to keep this hand, and then just kind of hope that I can draw some action from here. So
At Zamigo Nom Nom,
1, 2, or 3.
thank you so much for the follow. Dr. Leo follow up says, "Better in humans
3.
or Affinity, Oliver?"
I mean, Affinity is the only thing that's actually had it see play so far, so I would argue that. At the same time, I am by no means someone who's knowledgeable about Legacy humans. It definitely has the potential to be played there. However, your slots are already there's so many choices already. Let's put it like that. I wouldn't be surprised to see humans list not go with it again, just because it is incredibly marginal with what it gets done. This is a lot better. You can see we have an Ancient Tomb, Tundra, and the Psy. This alone is kind of enough to go with it. But we also have a Stone Coil, Arcbound Ravager, Mox Opal, and Welding Jar. This is kind of one of the 2 starts that I said I wanted in this matchup, right? We have a turn 2 Psy that we'll be able to go into with Mox Opal and Welding Jar right away. Realistically, I might actually be ditching this Welding Jar. It doesn't do a ton in this matchup that I want. Go figure, Regenerate does not stop swords. And I do kind of want to have access to the Stone Coil Serpent because this is another way for me to be dealing with the depths. We'll go ahead and put that on the bottom. And I'm good to go when you are, sir.
I am good as well. Very best of luck.
Sweet, sweet. We're going to go off with that Ancient Tomb start right away. Go ahead and take 2 to get out this Arcbound Ravager.
That sounds reasonable.
And it's a little marginal of whether it's right for me to play this here or it's right for me to play the Stone Coil Serpent. I'm going to go ahead and go with this just in case I can get the Stone Coil to be a little bit larger. And at the same time, it is another cheap artifact for me to be able to get a lot of Thopters on the turn that I go ahead and play out the Psy. But yeah, it is your go, my man.
Excellent. I will draw a card. So that draw was definitely not what I wanted to see at all. But I'm going to lead off with a Windswept Heath here, and then I will fetch with the Heath. Given that I see Arcbound Ravager here, I know this is probably an Affinity deck. Not super familiar with it off the top of my head about how many Wastelands it is running, but I think given that I don't have another non-basic source in hand, I think I probably want to go get Basic Forest here. And then I will use that Basic Forest and I will cast the Elvish Reclaimer. And then I will pass the turn over to you.
Sounds good. We'll go ahead and have it go back to me.
So that's an interesting thing both on play one from both of you guys. The fact that really neither of you guys can hide what deck you're on by your opener. It kind of just shows, hey, I'm on a depths plan or a lands plan. Hey, I'm on Affinity.
I think that makes sense.
There really is no disguising it unless I just go Tundra Pass, right? That's kind of, or Plains Pass if we happen to have that.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and go Tundra with Ancient Tomb. We'll play out the good old Psy. I'm going to go ahead and play a Mox Opal. We'll go
Okay.
and get Thopter number 1.
So this is
Probably got
really
these
bad
Thopters
for me.
ready.
This is really bad for me.
Of note, the Jerry Step cannot get through these. That's the
Yes,
number
they
one
are
thing.
colorless.
I'm going to go ahead and make a blue. I'll eat it to the Arcbound Ravager.
Sounds good.
We'll go ahead and play out another Mox Opal. That was our draw for turn. Made it so we can actually attack into this.
Ooh.
That we can actually attack into this Elvish Reclaimer with the Arcbound Ravager. Basically,
That makes
prevent.
sense.
It kind of stopped us from getting punished for not going with the Stone Coil right away. But then I will go ahead and make a white here, and we'll play out the Stone Coil Serpent. We're just going completely hellbent here. Make a last Thopter. And this one's going to be a blue one. And I'm going to move to combat.
Is the Stone Cold Serpent a 1/1 or is it a 2/2 right now?
No, so I floated 1 mana with the Mox Opal, and then I
Oh
sacked it.
yes. Okay. Yep. Sounds good. My bad. Move to
And
combat.
moving to combat, we'll go ahead and swing for 2.
I will not block.
I'm not going to do anything. We'll let that go ahead.
Sounds good.
And we'll pass over to you.
So that was a pretty
Untap.
really powerful turn there, Oliver.
That was.
Well, we have everything out
Draw.
in 2 turns, right? Like this feels pretty fantastic. We have multiple Thopters in play. I can start chaining through cards as well with Psy if I so choose to. But at the same time, I can just kind of pressure down here and get to the point where I can Alpha Strike by just putting counters onto my Thopters.
So I'm in a really bizarre scenario here where I have the 6 lands in hand, which I did know this didn't have a ton of action. Unfortunately, I haven't really drawn anything else. However, what the issue is with all those Thopters out, I'm kind of wondering if Merit Lage is something I should even be trying to bother with right now, or if I should try and go on a different plan. And I'm thinking probably the different plan is where I want to be going at this point in time. Just having the Stone Coil Serpent for 1, and then also having the Arcbound Ravager along with the Thopters. Like the Thopters are 3 damage a turn no matter what, and I guess if Oliver's swinging them sideways, then I can just crash in. But even then, I think I want to get this Elvish Reclaimer pumped up pretty quick here. So I think I'm just going to lead off on a Windswept Heath for now, and then I probably am just going to need to pass the turn with 6 cards in hand.
I will go ahead. And the interesting thing here is whether or not I'm going to be attacking with the Arcbound Ravager. We're really going to have to see what the draw is. He, of course, can fetch, block, and then activate to make it a 3/4. So we'll have to see what we get. We'll go ahead and play it. We're going to play out this other Ancient Tomb.
Okay.
Not exactly great, to say the least.
What would have been a draw you were looking for there, Oliver?
Honestly, Urza Saga. Give me Urza Saga, please. I want to start
Thought
chaining the
Monitor.
constructs.
Thought Monitor, I think, would have also
Thought
been a
Monitor
good
would have been
one.
quite amazing as well. Honestly, Thoughtcast as well. Just kind of any non-land. It's just, and as long as it's a card that's producing another Thopter on board. I'm trying to decide whether or not I attack the Stone Coil Serpent as well. I don't believe I do. I'm going to go ahead and pass to you.
Okay,
With
so
DM for 5.
Connie, thank you so much for the follow as well.
I think what I need to do here is I definitely want to make sure that I'm getting prepared to block. The problem is that it's how much am I willing to risk to lose this Elvish Reclaimer? This is 5 damage coming across. Luckily, the Mox Opal and the Stone Coil Serpent are the only non-attackers, so they're the only ones that'll actually net damage. I think I definitely want to fetch here, so I will definitely do that. And then as far as what I can go grab here, this is kind of rough, I think.
Alan Hash Browns, thank you so much for the follow. I have no idea why the alerts are so quiet, guys. I appreciate it. I apologize.
I'm going to just grab the Savannah here. As far as moving to blocks goes, I think actually, well, you'll need to sacrifice 2 artifacts, which I suppose the Mox Opal and 1 Thopter would be enough, and then that'll at least kill the Elvish Reclaimer. So I'm not exactly sure if that's what I want to be doing. So I'll probably just let this attack go through and not do much else.
Yeah, and I'll let this 5 hit you.
Okay.
The question is here whether or not I'm going to be activating the Psy, just basically looking to get a little bit deeper. The unfortunate thing is that I would think I would actually be ditching a Stone Coil and a Thopter at this moment. I want to be keeping this Mox Opal as this another producer of mana source. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just losing Thopter and Mox Opal. Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to pay 2 life. Make it blue here. I'm going to activate Size ability, sacrificing 2 artifacts and drawing 2 cards, ditching this Mox Opal and this Thopter.
Is it 2 cards or 1 card you draw?
It is drawing a single card.
Okay.
With that 1 floating and 2 more, let's really hurt myself. We'll play out the Nettlecyst. This feels good.
Ooh.
I
Yeah,
like what
that's
happened
a
here.
fast clock. That is a
So-
very fast clock.
This card, in case you don't know it, is pretty nutso. This is essentially just cranial plating that also is buffing the toughness and then also is making a germ to go alongside it. So I feel pretty good about that. We definitely got rewarded. So
Yeah.
right now this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6/6 that we can put somewhere else as well. I have 2 blockers left or 2 blockers that can block things in the air, and I'll pass to you.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to activate the Elvish Reclaimer on end step. As far as what I need to grab here, I'm not exactly sure what I need in this case. I think that it's too slow to be going the other way around. However, I need as many options as I can. So I'm actually going to go get a Yavimaya Cradle of Growth here. Largely because this allows me to play very nicely with Knight of the Reliquary, having all of my lands be able to be sacrificed.
What were you
So
gonna say,
I'm going
Oliver?
to fetch that on end step.
That is such a good card out of MH2. Like, I'm
Oh,
not
it's
gonna
a
lie,
very
when that
good
came out, I only
draw.
thought, oh, if that's good in elves, right? Or that's good in actually basically just elves is all I thought of, to be totally honest. But you being able to sack any of your lands to Knight of the Reliquary is absolutely nuts. So
Absolutely. So I think all I can really do right now is I'll play with the Thespian stage. Actually, probably shouldn't do that. I'll actually play with Caracas just because that you could still put me on just like actual Reclaimer at this point, rather than knowing that I'm on Depths. I will cast Knight of the Reliquary here.
ooh, and that knight is a 4/4 right now. So
It's
that
actually a
is-
5/5. I have 3 lands in graveyard. So
Right.
this is a 3/4 and a 5/5.
All right, things have gotten scary.
Yeah. That being said, though, I'm at 11 and there's a lot of flyers over there.
All right,
I
sure.
will pass with 5 cards in hand.
We'll go to my turn. I'll go ahead and draw. Well, Doc, you wanted it and we got it. We're gonna play out S for Sentinel. Let's make another Thopter.
Oof.
Let me go ahead and I'm just going to ditch the Nettle. Ooh, do we do this actually? It's a 5/5. I can force a block here. I actually like that a lot. It allows me to still keep this body.
Shouldn't the Nettlecyst be an 8/8?
Oh, it is an 8/8. That is so right. Wait, I can just lethal you. Yeah, why would I
Yeah.
not? Okay, yeah. What am I doing? Oops. Let's go ahead and equip this Nettlecyst over to a Thopter that does not have summoning sickness.
Yep.
Lose 2 life. I will move to combat and I will crash in
4 exact seats.
9, 10, 11, and we'll also swing with Arcbound Ravager for the fun of it.
Well, just to make sure, I'll double block the Arcbound Ravager and then take lethal.
I'll sack and put the counters over. All right, sounds good.
There you go.
Let's go to game 2.
So that was a pretty good showing from Affinity there.
Excellent.
So let's talk about sideboards a little bit. Let's start off with the Depths deck. So you were pretty much put off your game plan. Just it looked like basically just by the pace of Affinity, how on turn 2 was able to just vomit out its hand essentially, right?
Yeah, so it was definitely super fast. I do agree.
So what are you going to be looking at in terms of sideboard bringing in?
So the big thing with this one right here for the sideboard is the Collector Oof is very valuable. It turns off the activated abilities of the creatures. Or specifically, Mox Opal turns off Ravager's ability to start moving all the counters around. Nettlecyst can't re-equip to something. Stuff like that. Other than that, the Force of Vigors and the Collector Oof are absolute slam dunks. There's possibility actually that I bring in a second Endurance just given the number of flyers that I saw. But at the same time, I'm not exactly sure if that's quite where I want to be.
Before we move on, that's a really interesting point. Endurance, and Doc had mentioned it earlier, just that he was waiting for his endurances, or I think that they just came in. Endurance has kind of become a ubiquitous green card that's in pretty much whatever green X or XX green decks that are really there. It's great in a sideboard. It's great on rate. It blocks. It's got flash. I think, that's going to be a real powerhouse moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Doc also says Collector Roof also shuts off all the artifact lands as well.
Oh, that is a good point that I wasn't thinking of, but I'm still bringing it in regardless of if it shuts the mana off or not, but that is bonus upside.
Yeah. Zombie Go Nom Nom also says they're extremely happy that Endurance is seeing so much play. So I think that's a really good game plan. Let's talk about Affinity. Oliver, do you even know what your opponent's on yet? You saw no Merit Lage. You did see a Reclaimer, but I'm sure there's a Merit Lage or Dark Depths there with a Reclaimer. What are you going to bring in?
So, let alone, my bad. Okay. So no matter what, with what I saw there, and this is exactly what I would be doing, even if I knew the matchup perfectly, I'm bringing in exactly two prismatic endings. There we go. That brand new spicy card. It's able to hit an early Reclaimer, and it's just my answer to onboard permanence as well. That's kind of what I'm afraid of with this creature deck. There is the possibility of bringing in the Grafdigger's Cage. However, I haven't seen a green Sun Zenith, so I won't be bringing it in. And then also, because I have seen the Knight and my welding jars are pretty medium for sure, I actually am going to be taking out one of my welding jars and putting in the Tormod's Crypt, just to have as a tutor to get with Urza Saga if I really need to essentially melt down the Knight, right? Also, with there being a Knight, for the vast majority of the time, I can assume that there's going to be a Ramanap Excavator as well. So that's just coming in as an easy flex slot to have. Worst comes to worst, it's a 0-drop artifact that makes my other things bigger, or makes my other things cheaper. So it's a pretty easy flex in, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I think that's a solid plan as well. Even a lot of decks that do run Knight of the Reliquary, Elvish Reclaimer also tend to play with Scavenging Ooze somewhere in the deck. A Tormod's Crypt can also be just another piece that might be able to hurt a Scavenging Ooze that may be there as well too. Definitely not game plan or game breaking, but something just to keep in the back of your mind. So
I didn't say this, of course, but I actually am going to be taking out two of the Esper Sentinels as being a creature deck, essentially, with very few non-creature spells. I already talked about how low I am on Esper Sentinel in this deck. They are just the easy thing for me to take out for these two prismatic endings.
Prez, what are you going to be siding out with what you're putting in?
So it's kind of hard to do it. Like, this deck has 30 lands, so it's very easy for me to actually cut some lands from the deck. In this particular case here, depends on if I'm worried about Prismatic Ending or not specifically, but Sajiri Step, the stock goes down a lot. With this not being a graveyard deck, I can afford to cut the Bajuka Bog, stuff like that. I'm not as worried about what could potentially be coming in that would affect, and I'd rather just have more action in the deck. I do think I am going to actually be bringing in the other endurance as well, just because that it is another body. And I think I can probably afford to go down on a couple of the pieces of interaction, either crop rotation or Swords of Plowshares, if need be, even though they are very good. But I think Ravager being able to turn off the utility of STP, I think is really good, or really rough on me. And also, I don't think I need 3 Sylvan Libraries in this matchup, given that I'm not trying to outgrind you. I'm trying to just go fast.
Yeah, it's hard to keep in that many Sylvan Libraries when you're going up against an aggro deck, right? Or something that's going to be pressuring you down really early, where if you decide to do the Ancestral Recall, draw 3, you're taking half your life total and just making it way easier for me to lethal you. I'll put 2 on top for you. What you want?
2 as well.
Sounds good. The one thing about STP is that the threat of STP alone kind of makes it hard for me to go all in with Archbound Ravager unless I literally need to, or if I just decide to take my chances at that moment.
Yeah, I will take
So
the play for game 2 as well.
Sounds correct. Again, I'm looking for the same thing. I'm looking for Ancient Tomb with Urza Saga, or I am looking for a turn 2 or turn 3, I guess, Sai. Again, we just kind of saw how great Sai is in this matchup.
So this is as Doc would say, I call this hand a Schneep or a Snapkeep. This hand has 3 lands in it, one of which is a fetch land. It also has a Collector Oof, Swords to Plowshares, Force of Vigor, and a Green Sun Zenith to go get the Reclaimer early.
That's the money right there.
So yeah, this is a Snapkeep.
Mine is a lot scarier, right? So I got Emery, Thought Monitor, Thought Cast, Stone Coil Serpent, Prismatic Ending, Welding Jar, but just the Ancient Tomb, right? So we really are running the threat of just having the vast majority of these cards completely be uncastable. We're going to go ahead and take this mulligan.
And while you're doing the mulligan, everybody, for you guys watching, we are the MTGPL, the Magic the Gathering Paper Legacy Discord. In the chat is a link to your very own personalized invite to the Discord. We run Saturday weekly challenges through MTG Melee. We have a Sunday bi-weekly Euro APAC event that we run. Tuesdays are Legacy Fight Nights, and then opposite of the Legacy Fight Nights is this Legacy Live. So it's a new format we've been trying to see how people like it. More so just to get some more beginner friendly or more advanced knowledge going on in the format. It just gives people a better idea. What am I looking at when I shuffle up, when I draw my opening 7? What am I actually looking to keep here? That's basically what we're doing here. So we appreciate all of you guys hanging out. And if you're not following, please do. We appreciate it. We also, all of our videos from our events and from everything that we do go live on YouTube, usually the day after. And then we have our huge invitational that we run each quarter for our leagues, which are monthly leagues. There's usually anywhere between 50 to 100 players. The Discord's a little over 2,500 players strong right now. So the leagues bring in a lot of other Legacy players that are super casual, super fun. It's just a blast. Yeah, absolutely.
This hand also is not good. We have Nettlecyst, Ornithopter, Urza Saga, Emery, Plains, Thought Monitor, and Thoughtcast. Again, we're missing blue source. We at least have white. I am a little bit more likely to keep this just in that single land actually gets us a lot of action here, basically with the Nettlecyst along with Ornithopter. And the Urza Saga can eventually get us blue source when we need it, as long as we're able to get these two permanents in play beforehand, going ahead and searching for the Opal. I am actually going to keep this. I think I'm going to be ditching the Emery. Basically trying to use the Thought Monitor and Thoughtcast to dig out. Don't want to ditch the Ornithopter just because in my worst case scenario plan, I do need this to enable Metalcraft. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead with this, ditching this Emery, putting it back down to the bottom.
Also conveniently blocks a Merit Lage.
That's true. That's pretty fantastic.
Okay, so I'm going to get started here with this absolutely nutso hand that I was blessed with. So yeah, in this particular scenario, though, I don't think. Well, I think the Reclaimer is more valuable than a Dryad Arbor here, so I'm just going to lead off on a Windswept Heath, and then I'm just going to pass the turn 6 cards in hand.
Sounds good. This looks good from my side. Not knowing what's in your hand, we'll go ahead and draw that card. So without access to an Ancient Tomb, I don't think I want to be deploying on turn 1 at this moment with the Urza Saga. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to show this Plains that we know that I have, and I will pass it over to you. I don't need to deploy this Ornithopter at this point at all.
Sounds good. I'm going to draw a card. I'm actually going to just let the land stay in the deck for now, potentially. So, oh, that was a very good draw. Oh, wow. So what I'm actually going to do here is I'm actually going to lead off next on Wasteland, and then I'm going to fetch down to 19.
Sounds good. All right, are we going to see that oof come down?
That is actually a good point. I think actually though, in this particular scenario, given that you're on basic planes right now, I'm a lot less worried about an explosive turn 1 like you had last game, or turn 2 with the Ravager into 3 Thopters right away. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm probably just going to advance the game plan a little bit by going Greens to Zenith X's 1.
Sounds good.
And this is going to go get me a early Elvish Reclaimer. And
So
this should allow me to keep going, and then Greens is going to shuffle back into the library.
Sounds good. So now that I've seen this, I know into game 3, I will be going ahead and putting in that Grafdigger's Cage. Again, a bunch of these flex artifacts are essentially free. Again, that welding jar that I have in here still is just not that fantastic. A nice, easy catch-all for me to put in, especially if I'm going to be on the play.
Yeah, and I'll pass turn.
Especially with Urza Saga being able to go get your own Green Sun Zenith, essentially.
Oh, absolutely. We will go ahead and deploy the Urza Saga at this point.
Okay.
Going up. It's really difficult to have to do this into a wasteland, but that's just kind of the way that it is. And I'll go ahead and pass to you.
Untap. Upkeep. Draw. Okay, so So we still got a lot of good stuff in hand here. The big question I think for right now is, do I just immediately fire off this Wasteland on the Saga? Um, hmm. I definitely think that there is value in that for sure. I'm just trying to think here about what other options I could have in terms of sequencing if I want to try and go for a big green Sun Zenith or not. Um, hmm. No, I think in this case right here, what I'm actually probably going to do is I'll probably just take a bit of the slower approach and it should still be fine. I'm going to lay down a Thespian stage and then I will fire off the Wasteland on that Urza Saga right away.
Sounds good. It is gone.
Yeah, so at least that gets the construct out of the way so I don't have to worry about that. And then I'm going to tap 2 and I'm going to cast a Collector Oof.
And that's exactly why I think Wastelanding there is so good, just because any artifact lands that I have. By the way, we drew some artifact lands are now just dead forever, right?
Oh,
That just makes that
wow.
Wasteland to deny me just so much better. I will go
Yeah,
ahead and draw.
then I'll pass. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and play a dead artifact, and I'll pass.
Untap. So I don't have the mana open to use the Elvish Reclaimer on end step, but I think that's fine overall. I'm going to draw a card for turn. I'm going to... Just trying to think about if there's any flash threats that I'm worried about. Even if there is a flash threat, or if there isn't, I don't... I think the Collector Oof is valuable enough that I probably just want to leave it back at any point and just not risk attacking into anything. So I'll probably just leave it for the time being. And I think what I will do right now is I'll probably just play out a Dryad Arbor and then pass the turn.
Sounds good. We'll go ahead and draw. Um, we'll go ahead and play out the Ancient Den. And again, we'll just pass back. So
Okay.
what we've kind of been doing here is we chained the 2 artifact lands. Actually, we got the big punish for putting back the Emery by drawing the seed of the sign out, which was kind of exactly the draw that had needed to happen to punish that. Where if I was able to go turn 2 seed, then play Emery, we'd be able to kind of grind for a little bit, right? But instead, we've just kind of been chaining the Thought Monitors and the second Nettle Cyst, along with these 2 artifact lands, and it's scary. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
All good.
On your end step, I'm going to activate Elvish Reclaimer. I'm going to sacrifice the Dryad Arbor here. And then, so of note, this also gives me the 3rd mana I need in order to, or the 3rd land in the graveyard in order to get the 3/4 Elvish Reclaimer. And I'm also going to go grab a Yavimaya Cradle of Growth here. Given that I would have to take basically the entire turn off in order to get the Dark Depths, knowing that I don't have a land in hand. So I'd rather just have the Yavimaya right now and then potentially allow me to go and try and make a Merit Lage at the beginning of this next end step if I draw a mana source here.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to work around that too. And by the way, guys,
Untap.
if you guys do have questions, please add MTG Paper Legacy in the chat, and I will let them know what your questions are. Nathan
will
Lepet
draw a
says
card.
Affinity's cool. It's already gone from Moto, but it's cool to see it arrive in paper. We totally agree, Nathan.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
at the beginning of this, we kind of talked about how Affinity seems to be, it's almost like a dredge deck now, I guess would be a really good way to put it, where it's incredibly easy to hate out of the metagame as long as everyone's aware of it. However, there is possibility that other times in the future that it could come back, right? Where if people aren't playing Meltdowns or have it anywhere near on their radar, there is the potential for it to come back and just spike something pretty hard.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to play out Scrubland for turn here, which ideally I didn't want to play a Scrubland specifically. If that was another Savannah, that would have been golden. But well, I guess it's the one
Basically,
black
it's
card in the
Savannah, right?
sideboard. The one black card in the sideboard, Plague Engineer, isn't relevant here. But again, I think I'm just going to pass the turn trying to protect that Collector Oof there. Probably a bit of a slow, non-aggressive way to play, but I think it'll work out fine given that I have options here.
So I'll go ahead and draw. Um, At this point, I do want to start actually putting out the Ornithopter that we know is in hand. We have this Thespian stage, and we know that there's the chance of just having being Dark Depths immediately on this next turn. I'm going to go ahead and play out the Ornithopter, and then we actually drew a playable card where we're going to just play out this Stone Coil Serpent on 1. So we now have 2 blockers. You heard me, 2 blockers for the Merit Lodge, and I'll pass.
Sounds reasonable. So I'm going to activate Elvish Reclaimer on end step. And oh, this is actually a little bit slower than I wanted it to be. Okay, so this is not going to get what I want this turn. but I think that's fine overall. So I'm going to sacrifice the Scrubland here, and I'm going to just go and get a Dark Depths right now. Unfortunately, with the land coming into play tapped, which again, something that when I did the math in my head, I was figuring that the Dark Depths could be tapped right away. I'm so used to playing the Knight of the Reliquary that I was just like, oh, I can combo right now, and I can't because it comes in tapped. But that's fine. At least it'll represent combo going forward here. And then I will. Is there anything else that I want to do here? No, I think I'm fine with that. I'm going to untap, and then I'm going to draw. Okay, that was
Chaotic Bear in the
not a
chat
bad draw.
is chanting, "Come on, Cabal Pit, Cabal Pit, Cabal Pit."
Cabal Pit, yeah.
Ooh, for which one of us?
Yeah, exactly. um, hmm. So this hand is really bizarre. Again, it's kind of a whole lot of like I have a Sajiri step, and then I got 3 green cards and Swords to Plowshares here. I think I just kind of want to pass here and just make the Merit Lage on end step, and then just deal with whatever else comes my way. So I'll just pass turn here, 5 cards in hand.
Seems absolutely correct. We'll go ahead and draw. None of these cards are playable. I'll pass to you.
Okay, so with you passing here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start off by casting a Force of Vigor, pitching the other Elvish Reclaimer here to target both your Ornithopter and the Stonecoil Serpent.
They're dead. They're very dead.
Okay,
And we can combo here.
Yeah, I'm going to also activate Thespian Stage targeting Dark Depths. So for anyone who's unfamiliar with how this works, what happens is Dark Depths has 10 ice counters on it, right? Thespian Stage becomes a copy of Dark Depths. Dark Depths is a legendary land, so you must sacrifice one of them to the legend rule. Now, Thespian Stage, because it did not enter the battlefield as a Dark Depths, it has no ice counters on it. Whenever Dark Depths has no ice counters on it, you can sacrifice it, and then if you do, you create a Merit Lage token, which is a 20/20 flying indestructible creature. So we will go with that for now, and then I will untap, and I will draw a card. And then just in the odd case, actually, I do have the Sajiri step, which I could play right now to give the Charizard Pro blue, just because if there is a Thought Monitor, I want to be able to attack through it. But I think I'll probably just leave that for right now and just crash in for 20.
How much damage is that?
It's enough.
Let's go to game 3.
Actually, if you want to, I'll Gmax Wildfire for 300. How's that sound?
That sounds way worse, actually.
I think that's pretty much 20. I think that's how that's written in the book, right?
That's how that converts over.
Yeah.
So going back to sideboards, let's talk from the Affinity side first now. Oliver, you've seen the Dark Depths. You saw the Green Sun Zenith. You decided differently in game 1. You brought in your Prismatic Endings. Now what are you thinking? I'm sorry, you did bring in a Tormod's Crypt also. How did your game plan change now?
See, it's just bringing in the Grafdigger's Cage. Again, the Welding Jar feels really bad in this matchup for the most part. It does change a little bit now that there's Force of Vigor in the equation. I guess that's something to consider now. But I do want to bring in this Grafdigger's Cage. I think we're going to take out that Crypt now, leaving in one of the Welding Jars. Again, we took out 2 of the Esper Sentinels. I like them a lot more when I am going to be on the play, of course. Just so we can hopefully tax out, like, for instance, if Prez wants to go for that turn 1 Green Sun Zenith, I either have an Esper Sentinel or that or the Grafdigger's Cage on turn 1. But we're just kind of going with the same game plan, right? Like, what I exactly want is I want Urza Saga and Ancient Tomb, or I want Sai. That is my way of going forward at this matchup.
Yeah, and I think a slow hand plus that early Collector Roof, and that just really hurts you. And that really just goes to show how easy it is to hate on this deck. Both you and Nathan in the chat both said it's so easy to hate it out so hard. So many decks in Legacy have such fast, hard answers to artifacts, and I think they just all play really well against Affinity, which is kind of the unfortunate side. Especially, it got some really fun tools, right? So
I think that Null Rod and Collector Oof isn't as good as you would necessarily think it is. And that match right there, it was absolutely lights out, right? Namely because it denied 2 mana sources. If it isn't hitting that though, so for instance, if I draw Ancient Tomb and I get like I mean, honestly, just Ancient Tomb, and I can start playing out Nettlesys and my 3-drop artifacts that they don't actually have abilities besides the equip, but they're at least bodies in play. there still is some chance of staying in the game, right? The note of note though, that Null Rod and Collect Roof on this version, we've talked so much about how bad this mana base is and how bad the White Splash honestly feels. There is no way for me to cast out the Thought Monitor at this point, and no way for me to cast the Thought Cast either, because I just can't produce blue mana whatsoever. So there's still this kind of like ability to get around it, and if we're playing the mono blue version, there definitely is. But it's good. It's not as lights out as you would think with it being against a deck full of 35 artifacts or however many is in it.
Yeah, and I think you and also Eternal Glory, those guys had mentioned it a couple weeks ago. The Affinity deck is very, very strong, but all of them said the White Splash ultimately hurts it to the point to where it's unplayable. They all agreed, I think, that they would rather just be a mono blue and go with it that way. So, Prez, Dark Depths, crashing in for 2020. How are you changing your game plan?
So the big thing is I still haven't seen the prismatic ending out of Oliver sideboard yet. So that's not really something I'm thinking about. Even then, Sajiri Step is basically my only answer to that, or the Sylvan Safekeeper. Both of which I'm leaving one of the Sajiri Steps in, and then one of the Sylvan Safekeepers is out. I think my deck is fine as is from the last game. I don't think I'm going to change anything going into game 3 here, especially given that I'm not expecting a Grafdigger's Cage to come in here at all. But at the same time, the Force of Vigors do answer that if need be. Other than that, I also just want to chime in here quickly as a painter player as well. The thing about Null Rod and whatever else against a artifact deck is that it only really stops the activated abilities portion of it. So the Affinity deck, which is designed to beat face with artifacts, can still very easily bypass it. Especially like that game 1, if you have a Psy out, you can cast these artifacts that don't do anything, and you're still getting Thopters that crash in for damage, right? Whereas that, Painter Servant, for example, or the Grindstone deck, that one gets hurt a lot more by the Null Rod, and you actually have to answer that because that deck, its beatdown plan is super anemic.
Yeah.
So
I think those are all really, really valid points. Granted, artifacts are easy to hate out, but I think what really hurt was the fact that, like Oliver said, the mana base in this deck relies almost solely on other things to be able to cast colored sources. That Collector Roof shut him off of colors in essence.
yeah, and same as well, 2 on top.
Sounds good. I will do 2 on top for you as well. Best of luck. Let's find those really good 7s.
Yeah, hopefully we both get good 7s here. Maybe we can both play a game without one of us just running the other over.
Hopefully. This is not great. We have 2 artifact lands, Aethersworn Canonist, Bauble, Ornithopter, and Thought Monitor. So here's the thing. We can we can essentially cast Tune to Thought Monitor here, right? Or no, I guess we have to do it turn 3. However, I think I want to keep this. This isn't the slam dunk that we were talking about previously of wanting the tomb with Saga or just wanting the early Psy. However, this redraw with Thought Monitor and the Mishra's Baubles is pretty appealing. I think I'm gonna try it. Here's the thing though: if you go turn 2 Collector Oof, I'm gonna lose, like straight up. So this is kind of the gamble here.
Yeah.
All right. We've talked about how bad this mana base is in terms of actually having access to both my colors, even though it's just a 2-color deck. I'm going to keep it. Let's do it. Let's run it.
Okay. So I'm also going to keep this. Hand's actually quite fast, which I like. It's got Windswept Heath for colored mana. It unfortunately has 2 Dark Depths, which is a bit of a shame, but it also has a Mox Diamond, a Crop Rotation, a Knight of Autumn, and a Collector Oof. So
all right,
this is another very good hand. So I will be keeping my 7 as well.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, this is not looking good already with that perfect information. All right, but here we don't know that. This is a good old game. I just need to hope you don't have the 1 Collector Oof in your opening hand again, right? All right, let's do this. We're gonna go Ancient Den. Actually, no, we don't start on Den. I'm gonna go ahead and play out Seed of the Synod. I don't need to play out either of the 0 drops yet, and I'll pass to you.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna draw a card here. Good grief. Endurance being an excellent draw there. I think what I want to do here is I think given that you're on a artifact land start, I do think I want to be. Actually, that does kind of hurt my mana a little bit. Just the thought process of my Mox Diamond will also be turned off by this Collector Oof. I still think though that by and large it's probably good given that I have access to some Other, yeah, no, I'm still gonna jam this out this turn. I think I'm gonna play it a Windswept Heath, and I'm gonna fetch down to 19. I'm gonna go and get a Savannah. I still haven't seen a Wasteland, so
Spoiler alert: there are no wastelands.
yes. And I guess it's something that I'd imagine the mono blue version would probably be more inclined to run, but I guess given that the Wasteland does not produce colored mana and it does not ramp you in a way that Ancient Tomb does, the mono colorless is probably a bit rough. I'm going to cast a Mox Diamond next, and then I'm going to discard a Dark Depths to the Mox Diamond, and then I'm going to pay 2, and I'm going to cast out that Collector Roof.
So this is the moment that we shake our opponent's hand, we scoop up the cards, and we walk away from the table. But we'll not do that right now. All right. Sounds good. I will draw.
Basic
Oh,
Plains. Basic
oh,
Plains.
oh no. We'll play out Ancient Den.
Yeah.
We drew the Mox Opal, which would have enabled the turn
Oh
2 Thought
no.
Monitor, which is pretty sad. The Opal into the the Collector Oof is quite bad.
Oh
Of
no.
course, we need exactly plain Tundra or 2 Tundras to be able to convert this prismatic ending into killing that Collector Oof. So that's kind of what we're looking for right now. I will not play out any of my 0 drops at this point. There is, of course, the chance of in 3 turns, I guess, having access to a side to be able to utilize them that way. They're just doing no value right now, regardless, and I'll pass it.
Sounds good. Untap, upkeep, draw. So one thing that I need to be very acutely aware of here is that this Mox Diamond does not work. It does not make mana right now. So I need to be very careful here, especially given that my hand right now only has Dark Depths in it as mana. So I think what I need to do at this particular point in time is I need to play at the Dark Depths. And I think given that I didn't see anything in particular last game, and also given that there's actually no mana sources at all, uh, unlike with the basic planes last game, I will be attacking with the Collector Roof now.
Crunch in. Sounds good. Take it.
Yeah, 18. So in this case here, I have the crop rotation and I also have the Elvish Reclaimer. And I think right now I probably want a fast clock here. So I'm going to go Elvish Reclaimer right now and hope to pick up another mana source. If not, I'll probably just crop rotation into a Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. That way the Dark Depths will become a mana source and it also leaves half the combo on the board.
All right, sounds good. I will draw. I drew an Ancient Den. I'll play it and I'll pass.
Oh no.
Yikes.
These draws have been awful. Draw a card. So that was actually a pretty good draw here. I'm going to play a Dried Arbor as land for turn. It's a little bit slow, but I like it by virtue of it allows me to crop rotate a land away while keeping both the Savannah and the Dark Depths. So that allows me to keep one half of the combo, and it also allows me to keep white while keep getting the Yavimaya out in order to start ramping there. Plus, the Dryad Arbor being the 3rd land in the graveyard turns the Elvish Reclaimer into a 3/4, which I will then crash in for 5.
Take it. Kill me quick, baby.
Yeah. And I will pass with 2 cards in hand.
All right, I will go ahead and draw. Showing Emery, and we'll pass on over to you.
Untap. Upkeep. Draw.
Mike Diffin in the chat says Collector Roof equals sometimes Blood Moon or just
even
Cry
better.
Inside by somebody else. Yeah.
So much better than Blood Moon.
This hand's so disgusting. I'm going to move to combat, and I'm just going to crash in for 5.
Take it.
And I will pass the turn.
We'll go ahead and draw. We have a Thought Cast. I'll go ahead and play out this Mox Opal, just so we don't discard the hand size. Don't
Sounds
want to
good.
get rid of this Ornithopter quite yet, and pass to you.
I'm going to pay 3 on your end step, and I'm going to cast Endurance.
Sounds good. That's a
And
flop.
I'll target your graveyard if there's any cards in it, which I don't
There's
think
nothing.
there are.
I'll put them in.
Sounds good. Untap, upkeep, draw. You are at 8, which is exactly lethal. Yeah, I'll just play out this Windswept Heath, and then I will crash in for 8.
And I'll try to block with the Mox Opal, and I'll die. GG.
Okay. Yeah, with both double artifact removal in hand. I apologize. That hand was nuts.
So again, like that, we just kind of showed how easy it is to punish this deck, right? Where I had access to the turn 2 Thought Monitor, but just turn 1 Collector Roof again is just like pretty bad. And again, the only thing in this particular sideboard that was the way out was to chain 2 mana sources that are able to produce color, basically 2 of the 3 Tundras or potentially the Plains, and Prismatic ending it. And besides that, we were just locked out.
Yeah. How do
Yeah,
you?
it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was super rough.
Yeah, I agree.
I was there. I believe you.
And I think metagame wise, as we've seen online already, this deck has kind of already gone to the wayside. I think everybody is pretty much in agreement that this is the one of those decks, like Oliver said, like Nathan in the chat said, this is like a dredge type deck. If you happen to bring it along and nobody packs their artifact hate, you're probably going to do fairly well. If everybody's bringing null rods and collector roofs and meltdowns and every other side piece of artifact hate, you're probably going to have a pretty poor weekend.
Yeah.
As far as
One
the
other
depths.
Yeah, I was actually just going to mention that. So, as Chaotic Bear mentioned in chat there about didn't even make a 2020 for the fans, I do agree, but I think that's one of the reasons why I personally like this green white variant over, say, Rainbow Depths or Turbo Green Black Depths. Largely because its backup aggro plan is very real. Like, Knight of the Reliquary could very easily be an 8/8, which is an absolutely massive clock. Just having that as a backup in the event that, like we saw game one there when Oliver just absolutely started churning out Thopters very quickly, and then the Merit Lage doesn't really work anymore. Having the backup beatdown plan from the Reclaimer and the Knight of the Reliquary is super valuable.
Yeah, and the one of the pieces that I love about decks like this is the fact that your Mox Diamond, which is an accelerant, is also a payoff for two of your creatures in the deck. Crop rotation is such a fast, easy way to get whatever land you want, and Yavimaya has been a huge win for decks like this. Being able to have, your very own green Urborg. There's a lot of decks that just is a great tool. I think Elves is also something that would play something like that. So
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's going to be round one for us. You guys, again, we are the MTGPL. Oliver, why don't you tell them all the ways to find us?
So you can go ahead and you can hit !Discord to join us. Go ahead, get the link to join us. We do tons of things in our Discord, right? We have a really active LFG channel. We have a monthly league that actually sign-ups are live for right now up until next Monday, right? You can sign up next Tuesday. No, next Monday. Tuesday's the start, right?
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Regardless, you can go ahead and join a pool. Pool tends to be at least 6 to 7 people. Play everybody in the first half of the month. The winner of your pool advances to a final bracket and get to try to get the coveted title of the monthly league champion for the Discord. We also rock weekly Saturday tournaments done through MTG Melee. Again, just like the President and I are playing, going ahead with webcams, get to play with our beautiful paper cards, or in our case, proxy cards right at the moment. And then we also have bi-weekly EU Sunday tournaments as well. You want to join us? Go ahead, !Discord. Let us know how you got there, and we will see all of y'all for round number 2.